Iran, 1953. The CIA mounted its first major covert operation to overthrow a foreign government. The target was the Prime Minister of Iran, Mohammad Mossadegh. He held power legitimately through his country's parliamentary process, and he was popular. Washington had once looked to him as the man to prevent a communist takeover. But that was before Mossadegh decided that the Iranian state, not British companies, ought to own and control the oil within Iran's own borders. When he nationalized the British-run oil fields, Washington saw red. The Secretary of State, John Foster Dulles, and his brother Alan, director of the CIA, decided with Eisenhower's approval to overthrow Mossadegh and reinstate the Shah of Iran.
Crown Prince Abdullah greets the Shah as he lands at Baghdad airport after a 7-hour flight from Rome.
The King of Kings was back in control and more pliable than Mossadegh. American oil companies took over almost half of Iran's production. U.S. arms merchants moved in with $18 billion of weapon sales over the next 20 years. But the weapons and flattery heaped by America on the Shah blinded us to the growing opposition of his own people. They rose up in 1979 against him. Death to the Shah, they shouted. Death to the American Satan.
The Iran-Contra hearings, convened in May 1987 by a special joint committee of the United States Congress to investigate the sale of U.S. weapons to Iran and the illegal diversion of money to the Contras.
All our enemies knew it, and you wanted to conceal it from the United States Congress.
We wanted to be able to deny a covert operation.
In identifying those responsible behind the September 11 attacks, there were 3 viewpoints. First, that a very powerful and complex terrorist group able to successfully cross all layers of the American intelligence and security carried out the attack. This is the prevalent viewpoint, which has been supported mainly and advocated by American statesmen. Second, that some segments within the U.S. government orchestrated the attack to reverse the declining American economy and its grips on the Middle East in order to save the Zionist regime. The majority of the American people, as well as most nations and politicians around the world, agree with this view. Third, it was carried out by a terrorist group, but that the American government supported and took advantage of the situation. Apparently, this viewpoint has fewer proponents. The main evidence for this viewpoint links the incident with a few passports found in the huge volume of rubble and a video of an individual whose place of domicile was unknown, but it was announced that he had been involved in oil deals with some American officials. It was also covered up and said that due to the explosion and fire, no trace of suicide attackers was found.
I like to tell people when the final history is written on Iraq, it'll look like just a comma.
We have terminated a terrible, terrible deal that should have never, ever been made. And we will be putting on among the strongest sanctions that we've ever put on a country. And they're going into effect very shortly. They're mostly constituted and drawn already. And we'll just have to see what happens. I would advise Iran not to start their nuclear program. I would advise them very strongly. If they do, there will be very severe consequence. Okay?
This is Dan Dicks here reporting for Press for Truth, and there is a great deal of deception happening right now, ladies and gentlemen, as the masses in the West are being manipulated into going along with a war that is intended to overthrow the Iranian regime and to install a puppet leader there. A puppet whose strings can be pulled in any direction that the US and their ally Israel desires. Iran warns preemptive action against Israel expected in the coming hours by Resistance Front. Iran threatens Israel with a two-front war says Hezbollah could join the conflict in the coming hours. It's basically a war with Iran, an Israeli analyst said. Iran's Guards commander warns of another shockwave if Israel does not end atrocities, Reuters puts in quotes. And now Biden is facing the ultimate test as Iran, which backs Hamas, warns of deadly consequences. This all, of course, escalated 10 days ago when Hamas launched an attack on Israel, with the Israeli intelligence, Mossad, allegedly being just caught off guard by this, and they couldn't have seen this coming. But as I said in this report, they knew the attack was coming, and they knew they would retaliate. What you need to know, where I explained how Hamas is a creation of the Mossad, which is Israeli intelligence, along with the help of the CIA. And the CIA has been working for decades now to overthrow the Iranian and Syrian regimes with the help of their ally Israel, as now the war drums are starting to beat louder than ever. Iran warns of preemptive action against Israel amid Gaza war. Tehran has warned that a ground offensive on the besieged Gaza Strip would be met with a response from other fronts. Iran has warned of a possible preemptive action against Israel in the coming hours as Israel prepares for a ground offensive on the Gaza Strip. Meanwhile, the Pentagon has put troops on notice to prepare to deploy to support Israel. That sure does sound like a war is brewing to me. But this is 2023, where we have wars and rumors of wars playing out on places like X, formerly known as Twitter. This is the account for Iran's supreme leader, who said, "Our numerous intelligence reports show that the U.S. is formulating the Zionist regime's current policy, and what is being done is governed by U.S. policy making. The U.S. must be held responsible for this situation." To which the community notes pointed out, U.S. supports both Israel and Palestine with money. Since April 2021, the United States had provided over $500 million in assistance for the Palestinians. And I'll take that one step further with the fact that the U.S. and its ally Israel uses these pawns, like Al-Qaeda and ISIS and Hamas and Hezbollah, as their tools to generate fear and to destabilize the Middle East in their effort to eventually take out the Iranian and Syrian regimes. That's the bigger picture here. So moving forward, folks, let's never forget that they lied about Iraq. They lied about Afghanistan. They lied about Libya and Syria and Iran. So it's important to remember, as these tensions continue to escalate, where this is all stemming from and where this may potentially lead to. The U.S. regime is attempting to take over the Middle East, one nation at a time, through proxy wars and humanitarian missions. But the good news is there are a lot of us these days who see this for what it truly is. If that's you, please help by sharing this video. Let's get the word out there that we are being manipulated into going along with a war here whose intentions are to continue to destabilize the Middle East by taking over nations like Iran and Syria. So my friends, please share this video far and wide. And if you do appreciate my efforts to bring you this information, please take a moment to check me out at pressfortruth.ca/donate if you would like to financially contribute to my efforts to Press for Truth. So that's all for today, guys. I want to thank you so much once again for tuning in. Don't forget to click that thumbs up button. Share this video with your friends and family who you think need to see it the most. Check out that top link in the description below if you want to support my efforts moving forward. And once again, please share this video far and wide. That's all for today, guys. Stay tuned for more video reports coming soon. This is Dan Dicks reporting for Press for Truth. We all want truth. The truth will set you free.